everybody, I'm here to talk about one of my favorite artists, which is the wonderful Ozzy Osbourne, one of my favorite musicians. This is kind of spurred on by the recent final concert by Black Sabbath that I watched this weekend, which was, really sad, but also really lovely as well. And I thought maybe I would do like a series of these where I talk about the different artists and kind of what they mean to me, and also like how that kind of fits in with my witchcraft practice in some ways, or how it's influenced me. So I thought this would be a good place to start, seeing as there was the whole back to the beginning Black Sabbath concert that I watched on July 5th. So this is, or was, the last concert for Black Sabbath and for Ozzy Osbourne. So Ozzy is 76 and he has Parkinson's, and his health is failing, and he has not been able to tour for the last 6 years or so. He had to stop touring, and he kept saying, oh, I'll get better and I'll come back and stuff. And obviously, with this kind of diagnosis, that's, unfortunately not going to happen, right? So very sad, but we have, decades of wonderful music to celebrate, which was really great, and it was so cool to see. So this was a huge thing, if you don't know, in the heavy metal community. It was at the stadium in Birmingham, which is the town where heavy metal started, right? Black Sabbath is the beginning of heavy metal. There is some arguments about, like, Deep Purple's part of that too, Led Zeppelin to a certain extent, but really Black Sabbath is the band that started it all. And it was wonderful that they would, have this final concert in their hometown. And it was like, it's like a huge stadium. It's like 40,000 people, and it sold out in like 15 minutes. So they decided to do this live stream, and it was $22. I thought it was going to be $22 American, but then I looked at my bank charges, and it was 22 Canadian, which was a really good deal. But all the money went to charity. Like, all of the proceeds from this concert, whether live stream or, in the venue, went to charity. They went to 3 different charities. There was Parkinson's, obviously, Cure for Parkinson's, Birmingham Children's Hospital, and then a children's hospice. So I think those were all wonderful charities for all of that money to go to. And the last estimate I looked at was like 2.5 million people watched the live stream. So it was like a huge thing for the heavy metal community. And it wasn't just Black Sabbath. It was like, I think, like 9 hours of like all sorts of bands, the who's who of heavy metal playing. So it was like an all-day thing to watch, and each band got up and did, like, I don't know, usually about 4 songs or so, and then the next band went on. And they had this really cool, like, in the middle of the stage, it turned so that the back part they could set up for the next band while this band played. And so it was really good, really smooth to this kind of transition that they had. So it was a really wonderful concert to watch, and like lots of bands playing tribute to them. So I got to see some of my favorite bands play. So I had all sorts of bands, everything from Hailstorm, Pantera, Tool. They even had like a little super group with Steven Tyler in it from Aerosmith, and he's another one that, because of health reasons, has had to retire as well. So it was nice to see him come out and, sing some songs, which was great. And I got to see Guns N' Roses was part of it, and obviously big fan of them. I thought they did a great job. Same with Metallica. Metallica played it. So there were loads of just amazing bands. Tom Morello was involved. If you don't know who he is, he's from Rage Against the Machine, and he was one of the main organizers of this. So that was very cool. Loads of bands. I know I'm missing people because it was just like so many bands that were playing. And then they had Ozzy, and because of his Parkinson's, they just had him in this throne with a magnificent bat behind him. I'll see if I can insert a picture. Singing, and of course, like, he's Parkinson's, so he's shaking and stuff like that, but he did a great job. He sang so well, and it definitely was very emotional. He sang Mama, I'm Coming Home, and there was like not a dry eye in the place, that's for sure. He looked like he was pretty choked up too. And so he played 3 or 4 songs, and then he came on again with Black Sabbath, and they played 3 or 4 songs as well. And so it was really great to see them. And it was just like a wonderful celebration of heavy metal and hard music, and, Ozzy and Black Sabbath, who started this whole thing and this whole genre. So it was so wonderful to see. And it was a lovely antidote to all of the horribleness in the world, to just to have something lovely to watch where people are having fun, enjoying themselves, and also doing it for a good reason. Like, it's the money's going to charity, right? So you feel good about where your money is going. So it was really, really wonderful to watch. And I really, was thinking about, like, Ozzy's one of my favorite artists, and obviously he's had like a huge influence on me, as he has on, I think most people in heavy metal, after all, started it all. And so I thought I would just talk about that a little bit. So I got into heavy metal when I was about 13 or so, 12, 13. Now, to be fair though, when I was younger, I would hear certain songs on the radio. And of course I didn't really my parents didn't really listen to music, like, to start off with. My parents are not music people. I mean, we had some records in the house, but they were very much like stuff from the 70s that I think we got from like an uncle. So it was stuff like Peter, Paul and Mary, The Carpenters, Buffy St. Marie, Simon and Garfunkel, things like that, right? When no shade to that stuff, but not really hard stuff, right? And music was sort of background stuff. They would listen to sort of like generic sort of soft rock pop or country music, but it was very background, like they're not music people. And when I started to get older as a kid and listen to popular music on the radio, listen to rock music, I really liked rock music. And there were certain songs, like, they wouldn't play the really heavy stuff till later at night. I know that sounds silly right now, but that was a thing. And so you wouldn't often hear bands like Ozzy or Black Sabbath, or Van Halen or Judas Priest or anything, that you would hear them later at night because it was considered like so heavy and stuff. But I would always like it when that stuff came on. And then I was told, though, because I went to like a Christian school and raised by very religious parents, is that heavy metal's bad, it's evil and stuff, and those people are bad, right? And then when I actually heard it, I was like, oh my god, this music is amazing, I love this so much. So I first got into kind of like the more, I guess, what you would call hair metal, pop metal, and then I kind of went on from there. But I got into Ozzy, and so I think the first Ozzy album I have a few CDs here, is actually No Rest for the Wicked, which is a great album. So this is about 80, I want to say this came out about 88 or so, that this one came out. So No Rest for the Wicked, it has Miracle Man and Crazy Babies on here, which are probably the two biggest songs from this album. And back then, I know it sounds really funny now, but when I was young, all of the musicians and rock stars were supposed to be young, right? So Ozzy, even though, like, I don't know if he's even 40 here, he was considered old. I know that sounds hilarious, but he was, right? And it was like, oh, he's been around forever. And also being a teenager, right? You think that like somebody in their late 30s is old, right? So it's like, he's so old and ancient. And that's when I started to explore sort of the back catalog more and read about his life and everything, and explore a little bit more about Black Sabbath. And then also my best friend, her dad had like Led Zeppelin albums from the 70s and Van Halen and Black Sabbath and stuff. And so we would listen to those because we wanted to know where the music we liked came from. And so that's how kind of Black Sabbath came into that. But I started to read more about Ozzy and the influence that he had, even back then in the late 80s, on this genre of heavy metal, which, when I think about it, really wasn't that old at that time, right? Like, it wasn't even 20 years old at that point, really. So this was the first one that I got, and then I just kind of continued on from there. Just going through with the albums that I have here, because I started to go, like, when I was older, backwards with some of the stuff. So we have here the Blizzard of Oz, which is the first album he came out with after he left Black Sabbath. So he was in Black Sabbath in the what did it come out? 69, 68? 69, Black Sabbath, right? 69. And then he was there, I can't remember what year he left, but he got, basically, I think it was checked out. And then he formed Blizzard of Oz. So there's like a whole story of that, how like Sharon Osbourne was really the one that like convinced him to kind of go solo and started to manage him. His wife, that's managed him for, since then, right? And been a huge force. Like, she's the power behind the scenes for sure. So we have Blizzard of Oz here. This is one with Crazy Train. Everybody knows Crazy Train. This is one with Randy Rhoads on it. He was an amazing guitarist that unfortunately was killed at a very young age in a plane accident, and he's just very, very cool. So yeah, so they have Crazy Train on this one, Mr. Crowley, which is another classic that I love, on here. It's a great album that they have here. This is 1980, 81, somewhere in there. And then we have Diary of a Madman. Over the Mountains on this one as well. Diary of a Madman as well, of course. So that's another one. And you know, you could see at the time, this was really controversial. Like this is, I think, 82, 81, 82, somewhere in there. It's right after Blizzard of Oz. But, you know, this was like considered like pretty scary stuff. I mean, look at him. He's like a wolf man here. You know, it's very like spooky and scary compared to what was going on at the time. Like to us, this seems, you know, sort of kitschy and whatever. But at the time in the 80s, this was like very like, whoa, like what is this, right? Seen as very, very dangerous. And then the next one, Bark at the Moon. Obviously, Bark at the Moon's on this one. And again, we have this sort of very werewolfy type theme going on here. And this idea of madness and monsters and all this. And this is before like Thriller. This is before all of that, right? So this is like pre that. And this whole idea in the 80s of like, oh my God, this is terrifying because people hadn't seen this kind of stuff before. I mean, maybe like with Alice Cooper and stuff like that. But this is continuation of that whole thing. So Bark on the Moon is on this one. Yeah, so that's the big one. I think that's the hit on this one for sure. So that's that one there. That's the early 80s. And then, like I said, I have here, where is it? I have No Rest for the Wicked. And then this one's probably one of the more famous ones here. We have No More Tears. I love No More Tears. Loved that video when I was in high school. I remember that came out. I was in like grade 12. Loved that video so much. We also have Mr. Tinker Train on here, which is another really great song. I Don't Want to Change the World, Mama, I'm Coming Home. There were a lot of hits on there. Side note, Mama, I'm Coming Home was written by Lemmy from Motorhead. Also Hellraiser, I think maybe No More Tears, but I know for sure Mama, I'm Coming Home was written by him. No More Tears, of course, is on here. Hellraiser's on here too. Road to Nowhere. So this lots of hits from this, and this is probably his biggest kind of hit. This I think is about 92, 91, 92 for this one. And then the other one I have here is Osmosis. This is from the mid-90s. This is Perry Mason on here, and when I hear that song, it gets stuck in my head all the time. And See You on the Other Side, which is another song that I love as well. So these are, you know, those are some of the albums that I have there. We collect CDs. My husband and I collect more albums. He collects CDs, but whatever. We listen to the same music, so it's all good. But it's good to have physical copies of things because while streaming is great, and I certainly use Spotify, like the free Spotify and stuff, you can't replace physical copies because like streaming, they can take that away. They can, that platform can shut down. They can take things off. They can change things. There's been times where Spotify is in a dispute with an artist and then the whole catalog gets pulled, right? But if you have the physical stuff, it can't be changed. It can't be altered. You have it. And I think these days, especially with what we see happening politically, particularly in places like the United States, censorship, I think, is going to become an issue. And so I think physical copies of things like music and books and art is really important right now. So anyway, that's a side tangent. I could go on. So just a quick jump in here. I don't know why I didn't mention this, but I have had the pleasure of seeing Ozzy in concert twice. The first time was back in 1996. Me and a friend went and we sat on the side, and it was during this weird era, like sort of very influenced by grunge and the whole stripped down kind of, what did they call it, unplugged sort of vibe that was going on, where there wasn't any like pyrotechnics or a lot of lighting and stuff. So overall, the stage show I thought was very pared back, but it was still really great to see him, and he played a lot of his hits. It was still a really good concert, but it was a little disappointing because I do like a good show. The second time was in 2002, and that was really great because we were in the front row, me and some friends, and we were right in front of Zakk Wylde, who is his guitarist. So that was really, really special to be able to go and see him and be front row in front of Ozzy. So anyway, just thought I'd put this little one in there because I forgot to mention that in the video. Ozzy is he's kind of been a fixture like in my life since, you know, being, you know, a teenager, listening to Ozzy Osbourne and all the albums and things like that, into my adulthood. And then of course, like that show, The Osbournes, came out in, was it the early 2000s? and really set the stage for reality TV. It was when that was all exploding. And seeing him, you know, sort of fumble around and stuff, and his not perfect family and all that was really lovely. But even better than that, because I did enjoy that when I was when that was on. But later on, there's a show where it's Ozzy and Jack, and they go around. There's one where they go around the world, but there's one where there's like, actually there's 2 seasons, I think, where they go around on tours around the United States in like a camper van, and they just go places, and it is so lovely and funny. And you really get a sense of like Ozzy's personality and his family's personality, and it is so wonderful. I highly recommend. I think it's like Ozzy and Jack's Big Adventure. I'll put it in the notes below, but it is a wonderful show to watch. It's interesting because you get to see all these interesting, cool places, but then also some of the dynamics and things are just very funny, and Ozzy's quite the character, so very lovable. So really enjoyed those. And you know, if you think of a lot of the themes going on in Ozzy Osbourne's music, there's a lot of themes of things like mortality, themes of madness, and themes of morality as well. So you have things like Mr. Tinkertrain, which is about a child molester, but it's something that a device that's often used in storytelling in heavy metal is where things are told from the perspective of the from the villain, from the monster. And it's not to condone it, it's actually to sort of point out it. And that's a storytelling device that I think a lot of people outside of heavy metal don't understand. Like Alice Cooper uses that a lot. You'll see that in Megadeth a lot. You'll see that in Ozzy Osbourne's music. It's not that they're condoning any of those things, it's talking about it from that perspective to sort of give you an idea of the horror of it. And I think that's a really interesting device to use. And I think when we're thinking about things like in witchcraft and in the occult, this idea of exploring the shadow and the darkness isn't about condoning dark things, but it is about understanding, and it is about acknowledging it, because we can't face and we can't learn from what we don't acknowledge. We can't defeat what we don't acknowledge, right? Like if we refuse to look at the monster, we can't fight it. And so I think that that's one thing that metal has taught me a lot about, is that looking at the darkness and looking at the things that we don't really want to look at is really important. It's important to look at those things. And same with like, there's a lot of themes around madness, or people thinking that you're mad because you think differently than others. And exploring some of those themes, and again looking at those deeper psychological things. You know, Ozzy does sing too about things like addiction. That is a very common theme you'll see in a lot of metal music. But mortality is something that I think he sings about really well, especially as he's gotten older. So albums like the more recent ones like Patient Number 9 and Ordinary Man. I really do like Ordinary Man. I don't have a physical copy here, but I do have that album. Is really talking about mortality. And obviously, you know, he's getting older and towards the end of his life. And so I think that's a natural thing. But I think it's really important to look at those things. And I think those are topics that a lot of other genres don't really want to explore. They don't want to explore mortality or the darkness in humanity or in ourselves, right? You don't hear a lot of pop songs about those kind of things. And no shade to pop or country or any of those other genres. Everybody has their purpose and, you know, their themes and things. But I think that's one thing that I really do love about metal, is that it tells the truth. It looks at things that are hard and difficult and talks about them. And that's part of what makes it, I think, very healing for a lot of people, and speaks to a lot of people as well. And I think Ozzy does a great job of that, of talking about those things. And as somebody who, you know, practices, you know, witchcraft and, you know, explores things in the occult and stuff, it's important to look at those things. It's important to be able to look at things honestly and squarely. And I think part of my morality really has been shaped a lot by metal. And one of the, I think metal does a really good job with virtues like courage and honesty and integrity, and justice as well, are things that are very important that you'll see in heavy metal. And so having the courage to look at things honestly, to speak truth to power, to act with integrity, and also to look at things that are difficult, because if we don't look at them, we won't get justice. We won't, you know, have fairness and goodness in the world. So it's really important that we look at those things. So Ozzy is like, you know, he's kind of an important figure. He's always been sort of in the background and stuff. And I mean, we know he's getting older, but it was really lovely to see him be able to play, you know, this final concert. Sitting in his throne with the bat there is really lovely. And seeing all these people, all these musicians, and also just all these fans come out to support him and show him love and stuff. And just, you know, it was a big celebration of all these decades of music that he's really given, you know, him and all the other musicians he's worked with have given to us. So it was really a wonderful thing to be able to watch. So let me know what your thoughts are. Are you a fan of Ozzy Osbourne? What's your favorite album of his? It was really hard for me to pick a favorite because there are a lot of good ones. I do have a soft spot for No Rest for the Wicked just because it was my first Ozzy album, but No More Tears is a classic. Osmosis is great. I really love Ordinary Man too. Like, they're all just really, really great albums. And also, I forgot to mention, I don't have a copy here. I think there might be one upstairs of The Ultimate Sin. I think that album is severely underrated from the mid-80s. Ozzy's a little glittery in that one. It was the mid-80s, so a lot of people were wearing glitter, but it's a really good album, so I love that one too. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are on all of this. If you're a fellow Metalhead, did you watch the final Black Sabbath concert? Let me know. Anyway, you guys are the best, and as always, peace and love.